Peachy, and welcome back to Peachy's World. If you are new here, my name is Sarah, aka Peachy, and we are covering another video on VSG today. As I'd mentioned in my previous VSG video, which was on complications after surgery, I do want to talk about potential dietary issues that can stem from improper nutrition or eating or not drinking enough, etc. Because I think it's important to know not just the complications that exist with surgery, but how eating incorrectly or not drinking enough can also cause its own set of problems. So I'm going to be referring to page 48 out of my notebook, and I'll go ahead and post a picture here shortly, and it'll be up for most of the video since we're going to be going line by line on this. I do want to share what issues I've had off of this list and what I did to help with it through my surgeon's guidance there. And we'll just go by line. I think it's important to know that this page does a really good job of outlining what the issues are, what the causes are, and ways to prevent them. I do find that I refer to it quite often if I'm, say, facing an issue or think there might be a potential issue. Now, if you guys have been following me for a while, you will see that this is the infamous page that has sliming on it, and that this is the one and only line out of the entire notebook that refers to what sliming is. So that's the comical part of this one, I guess. But yeah, we'll definitely dive into that, and then we'll just cover it, let you guys know what I have faced myself, and what are some things that I have not. So we'll dive right into that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and throw this photo up here, potential dietary issues. Now it does state on the top here that the following issues can happen right after surgery or a long time after surgery, even 3 to 5 years. So it's important to note that this isn't just right after surgery. This is pretty much for the long haul. So the first one that we're going to cover is dumping syndrome. Now, I have not experienced dumping syndrome. This is not one that I have, experienced. And I think the reason is that I don't eat simple sugars. I don't eat any high-fat foods, and I don't consume liquid calories. So I have not faced this, primarily because I don't want to experience dumping syndrome. It sounds terrible. Look at those issues: nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, sweats, shivers, cold, dizzy. No thank you. None of that sounds fun. It is noted here on the ways to prevent that dumping syndrome is always a dietary issue. So you're basically hurting yourself by consuming sugary sauces, high-fat foods, sweets, simple sugars, things like that. So I don't mess with that. I never really dealt with a whole lot of sugar anyway, but it is important to note that after surgery it can cause some issues. Now I did work with somebody who had a dumping syndrome episode after they had gastric sleeve, and they pretty much said it was miserable. So no thank you. I try to avoid that. The next one I have experienced, and you guys have heard me talk about this on videos, frothing, aka sliming. It is terrible. Oh my god, it's awful. And I love how under possible cause it says decreased stomach acid in the pouch. Okay, I've also heard from my surgeon that it can also include eating too much food or too fast, which we'll get into in the next line as well. And the only ways to prevent is this will go away on its own, but drinking sips of warm liquid will help it subside. It's the only recommendation for sliming, and it was awful because I've had sliming episodes that have lasted 4 hours in which I puked like 14 to 16 times. It was terrible. Don't recommend it. Chew your food thoroughly. Take your time and try not to advance your diet too fast, because sliming, I mean, like I said, I've never experienced dumping syndrome, but I've experienced sliming, and I'd rather not again. It was terrible. So just keep that in mind. Try to avoid that one. The next one, nausea and vomiting, heartburn, blockage of stomach opening. Off of this, I have experienced heartburn, which I've always had an issue with acid reflux and heartburn pretty bad. Even after surgery, especially advancing my diet, I have noticed that there are certain foods that just cause a heartburn to go out of control. Some of those include citric type foods, so things like tomatoes I still struggle with right now, so I'm not really eating that, or like a tomato sauce of any kind, because the acid reflux is really, really bad. It says possible causes for that is eating too much food or eating too fast, which, yes, that can cause it, and yes, that does play into sliming as well. But I do think that, you have to be careful that you're not advancing your diet too fast after surgery, and then you need to really take time to try one new food at a time to see how you're going to react. Because there are foods that I used to eat before, that I've tried to eat now, and I pretty much can't, because it'll either make me sick or it'll upset my stomach, or anything like that. So you do want to take those things kind of slow and really listen and pay attention to your body and how it's reacting. All right, let's see here. It does say ways to prevent. Always stop eating when you're comfortably full. Now, I like how they do say comfortably full here, because you don't want to eat so much that you're just like beyond stuffed. And I have noticed that after surgery, it is very, obviously, it's very easy to get full fast, but there is a very big difference between being comfortably full and knowing that you ate too much food and you're about to be sick. So thankfully, I've learned that threshold very quickly, and that has helped me to understand what my comfortable full is. It is important to make sure that you follow your portion control, because you don't want to stretch out your new stomach. You want to make sure that you're chewing down to what they call baby food consistency. So really taking a lot of time to chew your food really well. If you make the mistake and don't, you will notice how that hits your stomach differently. It says that meals should last about 20 minutes, and I also recommend that you try to have your meal with no distractions. If you're really focused on your meal, taking time to have small bites, to chew thoroughly, to give yourself the time needed for your meal, it's less likely that you'll eat too much too fast or not chew enough, at least from what I've noticed in my own experience. All right. It does mention here also as well that 1 to 2 vomiting episodes per day. Probably should call your surgeon pretty fast there and find out what's going on. That was a situation that I ran into with sliming. I did have to call my surgeon and say, hey, I'm running into this kind of issue. What should we be doing here? Also to note here, it does say that you can take some over-the-counter antacids like Tums or Rolaids for mild heartburn. I still take Protonics right now because I'm having such an issue with heartburn. I take that in the morning, but at night, if I have eaten something that is causing some heartburn, like maybe some protein or maybe a particular seasoning I may have used or anything like that, I will probably take a Rolaids or a Tums to help with that. All right, next one, constipation. Should just put a big star on this one because I struggled with that one immensely. Possible causes: dehydration, not eating enough fiber. Probably for me, the biggest one is going to be not eating enough fiber. I do struggle with a little bit of dehydration because it is hard to get some fluid in. But honestly, it's the fiber issue. And let's just take a step back to reiterate, like with Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune issue that I have, it can cause a slower metabolism. So if you have a slower metabolism already, which was in the past causing you to hold on to weight and or gain weight, and then you take fiber out of it, you're just asking for constipation. You're just asking for an issue. So some of their ways to prevent that they have listed, and then I'll tell you what I have done as well. Try to eat more vegetables, fruits, whole grains as you're able to. Now, I am not in a phase in my diet and won't be for a long time where I'm adding fruits or whole grains. So I have some vegetables and things like that incorporated into my diet now, which is helping a lot. And you do have to add those in slowly because you do have to adapt to them. And again, give your body a chance to give you the signals whether this food is going to work for you or not. It says you may use Miralax stirred into your water if you don't have a BM for 3 days. My doctor had me on Miralax for the last couple days of my pre-surgery diet, and I have been pretty much on 1 dosage of Miralax a day since then because of my issues, and he's perfectly fine with that. As I incorporate more vegetables, I could probably cut back on that. We are almost to that point, not quite there yet, but pretty soon I won't have to be taking Miralax every day. It does say that you can use things like over-the-counter stool softeners like Colace. I have it. I haven't used it because I've had to use other remedies because it's been so severe. Now, it does also say here, after 8 weeks, you can take Benefiber or Metamucil Clear and Natural for fiber supplements. My doctor pretty much had me on fiber. Couple days left on my pre-surgery diet, and then pretty much afterwards as tolerated because I needed it and had so many issues with constipation. So it's still something that I add to my morning coffee along with my Miralax every day. So it's just kind of routine at this point. It does help immensely. All right. Next one. Protein deficiency. Not eating enough protein. That's pretty obvious. Now, the goal is to get 50 to 60 a day, but I do like how they also note that you don't want to exceed 100 grams of protein either, because that can actually cause you to gain weight. So they kind of give you both sides of it. You can be deficient or you can have too much, and you could have effects from either one. Vitamin and mineral deficiency. That's not taking your vitamins or minerals each day. Right now I'm still taking the chewables because I enjoy those more than the regular pills that you can take. And I take the Journey supplements that I get through my surgeon's office that meet the bariatric standard guidelines. Taking those, and I'm taking the calcium D3 that they have as well. I take those every day, and it's important to make sure that you're taking those because you are pretty limited on your diet and you don't want to become deficient. So you want to make sure you take those. And I do get my levels checked with my doctor periodically just to make sure I'm not deficient. All right, the next one, diarrhea. Lactose intolerance is most likely the cause on that. So you can try things like soy milk or lactose-free milk or lactate tablets. Fairlife milk has no lactose in it due to ultrafiltration. I don't really have a problem with milk, but I am not a milk drinker. If anything, I will use almond milk, and not really been using that, to be quite honest. If I get to the point where I'm having milk, it will be, like I said, almond milk. I don't drink cow's milk, so. But in case you do take in regular dairy products, just be careful that lactose may hit you differently. Next one, weight gain or lack of weight loss. For this one, I do refer to this line pretty frequently, especially if I've hit a stall. And there's 3 things that you check for right away. Are you snacking? Are you consuming liquid calories? And are you exercising enough? Now, I don't snack and I don't take in liquid calories. So when I go through that list, I automatically know that I'm probably not exercising enough, or I need to change up my exercise routine. And if I hit all 3 of those and I know that I haven't done any of those, then to be quite honest, I need to just give my body a chance to adapt to my new weight level and just to be patient, maybe change things up a little bit with food and or exercise. Next one, stretching of stomach pouch. That just sounds incredibly painful, to be quite honest. Possible causes, eating past the point of fullness or overeating. I don't know how people do that, because I know that if I've taken even one bite too much, it pretty much is misery for like a couple of hours. Like, it's just, and that's one bite, like past my comfortable full. That's like, you have to think I'm only taking 3.5 or so ounces of food a meal. So even like one extra tiny little bite makes all the difference. So how somebody is eating past that is just scary to me. Like, how are you not getting sick? Or maybe they are. I don't know. But try not to do that. Carbonation is also another thing, which is crazy because I used to love to drink seltzer waters all the time. And I broke that habit a long time ago because I couldn't have it during my pre-surgery diet. So, and I still can't have it now. I couldn't imagine, honestly, having something with carbonation right now because your stomach is just so small and you're reserving it for what you can get in that doesn't cause an issue. So I wouldn't want to add bubbles on top of that. That sounds horrible. Eating and drinking at the same time. Anyone who knows me knows that I don't drink when I eat anyway. It's just a weird habit I've kind of had. Like, I will have something to drink before a meal and after, but I typically don't drink during a meal. So that wasn't really a huge adjustment for me. I do make sure that or actually before I eat and after I eat, that there's a 30-minute time period so that I'm not drinking before a meal or after a meal. And that's pretty easy for me to do. Like I said, not a huge adjustment. And it does say to avoid large quantities of food. I have found that if I make like a big meal, I will portion it out into like my own like Tupperware bins or portion sizes so that it's just grab and go. Like if I'm, out running errands, I can take something with me, or if I'm sitting at my desk for work, I've got something. But yeah, don't give yourself a big plate. Like, give yourself the portion that you're going to need, and it'll stop you from overeating because there's food on your plate. So don't set yourself up for failure by getting a big plate of something. Get yourself your portion and go with that. Hair thinning is the next one. I have not noticed this just yet. It does say that it comes from surgery or rapid weight loss. Occurs at 4 to 5 months. I'm about 3.5 months post-op right now. It does say it lasts for a couple of months before regrowing. A cause for it could be low protein, iron, or zinc. I'm like tripping over my words. I'm talking so much here. Sorry, guys. But I know that my protein isn't low, and I'm taking my iron and zinc, which is in my multivitamin, so I'm okay there. So I think I'll be all right. If it does happen, it happens. It says it's going to regrow, and I trust that it will. I ran into the same issue with Hashimoto's. It did cause me to actually lose about half of my hair, which is crazy. But it did grow back a little bit, so I'm confident that, this one, since it is driven by rapid weight loss and protein consumption, things like that, it'll stabilize over time. So, all right, so we've gone through potential dietary issues. I know that was a lot to cover. Please feel free to refer to that sheet if you need to. And I would love to do another video upcoming for VSG here. I'm thinking either maybe going into the notebook a little bit more, or if you guys are interested in maybe doing like some recipes that I've tried that I think are really good, please let me know, comment below. I will do a video on either one or both, whatever you guys want. But as of right now, I think we are good to go. So remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, comment below where you can. And thank you guys so much for tuning into Peachy's World. You guys have a good night.